Oh no, boys and girls, I'm doing this again with a report. Let's see, we had Saturday night at the Atheists and we made 100 subs. Standing for Truth said I would never do that. And I don't know, just so you guys know, I'm 25,426 days old today. And, I'm probably not going to live very long. So please subscribe to my channel because you're going to feel really bad if you don't. I mean. So today we have yesterday, or actually Saturday night, very, very late, very early Sunday morning, Standing for Truth and Fraud Raw Matt. Oh, I shouldn't call him that. Raw Matt, who likes to misrepresent himself, did a comeback on Erica and Dr. Dan Cardinal, and it was mostly a bunch of garbage. Now I came up with an analogy that I very, very much like. And that is, if you took a stack of 30 scientific papers and you took a pair of scissors and you cut out letters from each of the papers, or 30 or more, and you wrote, for the first letter would be capital M, and then you go find a lowercase y and then a space, and you would write, my model is correct. And that's what Standing for Truth and Raw Matt do. They go through these papers, they put them up very rapidly, and they make it look like they did a really good job of proving their model. And they keep putting the same shit up over and over again. Trinkhouse paper, which does not support the model. In fact, none of it does. And you look at some of the other dates on the mitochondrial DNA stuff, and you'll notice a lot of 1993s and like really old stuff that they're cherry picking to make their crazy case that pedigree mutations are what we should be using in our calculations. And of course, Dr. Dan has told us in his videos why that doesn't work. So anyway, let's see. I'm trying to keep up with chat too. Anyway, today, let's see. What do I have here? I wanted to talk a little bit about biosemiotics, and I've linked a wonderful document that is a kind of beginner's introduction to biosemiotics or semiotics. It's a big field, and it was started by Charles Sanders. Well, Charles Sanders Peirce. I was saying his name wrong. It's not Pierce. It's Peirce. Charles W. Morris and a whole bunch of others have worked on this for a long time, and recently it has become biosemiotics. And the idea behind semiotics is that of a sign. That when you see something like a road sign, that it has a certain structure, and that structure is represented as a triangle. And there are a couple of different names for it. This one is like the sign. Okay, the sign is the whole triangle, basically. The representimum is like the road sign itself. Okay, we call that a sign, but it's a representative. And then there's an interpretant, which is us. We see a stop sign, and we interpret it as the object. We have to stop at the intersection. So it's about communications, and it started out describing language and communication between human beings. And I'll tell you why it has been extracted in biology to go quite a bit beyond any idea of communication. Now, another way to talk about it that I kind of like is you have the sign vehicle, and then you have the sense, which is the sense we make out of it, the interpreter, and then you have the referent. And I like that particularly. So this would be the road sign, and this would be I should stop, and this would be my understanding and knowledge, and having passed the driver's exam, hopefully, of knowing what that stop sign means. So we have a word, we have interpretation of the word, and it means, a tree, that sort of thing. So it's like this triangle relationship all the time, and I can show you how they use this in biology, if I can. Okay, these are some additional things that come up in that beginner's guide to semiotics, and they talk about semantics and syntax and pragmatics, which are John Maddox Data Wolf's favorite. Oh, the Parsons paper. Yeah, Ian Kim was mentioning the Parsons paper that they brought up. Yeah, yeah. None of the papers. God, these guys, they just kill me. Anyway, okay. So let's see. I've attached some links to Charles Morris's work where he talks about pragmatics, and that is about the relation of signs to interpreters. So if we go back over here, and so it would be this relation here, the sign, and the sense, or the interpreter, or interpretant, or whatever. And it's that relationship that where we come up with pragmatics. Signs mean something to us, so it's pragmatism, that sort of thing. And I apologize, I'm not very good at all of this teaching stuff, but I will try to get through this. Now, the interesting thing, okay, this is from one of the papers that I linked, and this is about Morris. And he talks about, he makes a definition of pragmatism or pragmatics. And this is where we run into trouble with creationists. He makes it, I hope you can read it. If from pragmatism is abstracted, the features of a particular interest to pragmatics result may be formulated somewhat as follows. The interpreter of the sign is an organism. The interpretant is the habit of the organism, what you know about the stop sign. Because of the sign vehicle to absent objects which are relevant, it goes on. Anyway, there's a criticism of him, and that criticism is very important to us when we go into biosemiotics. Pelk and his critical comment was that Morris's calling it an organism locks it into a narrow view of what a sign is. And it doesn't cover things like semiosis would not include cases such as the reaction of a mammary gland to the pituitary gland hormone prolactin. To treat an organ as an interpreter and a substance secreted by some organ as a sign would be excessively stretch the scope of the concept of sign semiosis. So that's where we get into, we can abstract away from human beings, that signs have to involve an intelligent agent. And we can look at amoebas, and amoeba is going to find a gradient, and it's going to interpret that sign, the gradient, as moving one way or the other, moving toward or away from it. And that would be the object, or the result of the sign. And that would be based on the chemical structure of the amoeba. So we can abstract away. And now when we get into DNA, I'm going to have to share a different screen for this. Maybe not. Yeah, I think I do. Let me try something. Oh my goodness. Okay. So this is going to work, I think. This is going to work. Okay. So we've got a little diagram here, and the creationist talking point is that this stuff here is, let me see if I can get a color here. So this is the codon in DNA, and that would be the sign. And the interpretant, or sense, is going to be the tRNA. So what happens is there's a group of a couple of dozen or 3 dozen tRNAs that connect a particular codon, like AUG, which is the nucleic acids in the DNA. They connect it to, this will lock into it, and this becomes a code interpreter. And on the end of this tRNA is a little amino acid, and that would be methionine, I believe, if I don't have this. Hope I don't make a mistake. And so it's attached to an amino acid. So there is no strict relationship between these, or it seems so, that there's no relation. So it becomes a code because there is no relation here. It requires an interpreter to tell you what the sign means, and that's what a code is. And then that amino acid, well, actually, the amino acid down here that gets attached to the protein, to the growing protein strand, when proteins are translated, is the object. So basically, this is the interpreter and this is the object. So I probably shouldn't put that there. But anyway, so that's the whole ball of wax for creationists. This is their talking point. Yeah, John Maddox likes to talk in threes. I don't know. He has a certain few styles. If you listen to him long enough, you'll get really sick of him saying the same things over and over again. Syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. Well, semantics is the relationship of signs to other signs, basically. That's semantics. And, no, excuse me, that's syntax. Semantics is up here. So this is semantics. This is the meaning of the sign. So we call that semantics. And relationship of, if you had a number of signs, it would be a relationship of one sign to another. So that would be the syntax over here. Okay. And the pragmatics is kind of down here with what actually gets attached to the growing protein chain. So biosemiotics and the Royal Society papers, we're going to be going over one tomorrow, if I can herd my cats together properly, because I need a little help with it. We're going to go over Kunin on the meaning of biological information. That's going to be the paper. So anyway, that's pretty much what it is. I hope I've explained this. If I haven't, please let me know in the comments, and I can do follow-on videos, or I can explain a little bit more. So, good one, Ian. Yep. We flip them one all the time. Anyway, we did a really good hangout. I think our Saturday night at the Atheist is peppered with a lot of science and a lot of, just teasing and messing around with this whole thing. But we also like to point out little clips where, Smokey rage quits, or somebody, goes into a rage, or John Maddox, I think, goes fuck crazy. He starts yelling fuck you to Leophilius. We also went through a really brilliant piece where Leophilius posed a question to Maddox at one of Smokey's hangouts, and you should watch that, because he did a really good job of bringing this whole idea of, random things falling together to the forefront, and ID and creationism. So I think that'll be really good. But back to this diagram here now. One other way to look at this, and I probably should erase a little bit. Now I won't erase it. I'll just pick a different color here. That is going to be possible. Okay. Maybe we'll try this green. Okay, this could be a bear track. A bear track in the woods is a sign. And we are human beings, and we see the bear track. And we determine that there is a bear and we should run away. So we get some value out of that, right? But we are made of physical stuff, and we are a system of history and mind, and our brain records memories about what bear tracks mean, and they tell us to run away. And if you have a raccoon, and a raccoon sees a bear, he's less intelligent than we are, and he's going to run away, even though they're kind of related. So anyway, I hope I have explained this triangle relationship of signs and how it applies to the codon and DNA, which is here, and the tRNA, which interprets it, and the pragmatics, which is the amino acid that gets attached to the protein. Now, in abiogenesis research, currently, there are a number of, there's a lot of work being done that indicates that this isn't such an accidental or unrelated code. That these codes are actually, because of the stereo structure of molecules, that these codes were picked in the early Earth for the first 6 or 7 amino acids, which were very common. But there was a reason he picked these codes, and then the other ones were. So I mean, there is a reason for this to happen, and I always like to tell you that if you have this network of things, that had to happen, if you're going to have abiogenesis happen, and you can't just make a big ball of pudding like Anthony Pudding Brain Tony. You have to start at point A, which is, there's basically, we got a boiling ocean, and we've got a geysers and lava and rocks and whatever, and high tides and all of that. Watch our abiogenesis piece with Demeter, if you want to dig a little deeper into that. And there's another step, which, could have been the very first nucleotides and some of the early amino acids, and then it would go to another step where these things start to join together and form more complex little loopy molecules with proteins stuck on them, very, very small proteins. And then they get more and more complicated as we go through the network, and there are many, many, many different paths. So that is what abiogenesis research is. A researcher, Tony's main criticism is that, they control the circumstances. Well, these are called microstates. Like every node of a thing that happens is a microstate. And we have to control this particular microstate right here, this transition. We have to understand what that is. So that takes purified reagents. It takes controlled laboratory conditions to figure out how this state would work, this one little state, and then the next state, and the next state. What we're looking for overall is a pathway between all those states. Anyway, I don't know, Ian, how did all that sound? Did you follow any of that, Ian? How we have genetic memory for most humans? Evidence? Oh, yes, that's. I think they found some indications. There's something called the amygdala, which is, and I talked to you a little bit about the hippocampus and learning, and the amygdala is right at the end of that hippocampus, and it has to do with index patterns. And it looks like genetics may have set us up to fear certain things. So it looks like the one that. What does the amygdala? My drawing. I'm sorry. My drawing sucks. Drawing that basis. Yeah, I'm not very good at this stuff. But anyway, this is what Sean Carroll, the software I'm using, Notable or something, Notability. It's what Sean Carroll uses. He has a really cool Blackboard type thing. But anyway, I kind of like it. It might help. It's on my iPad. So anyway, I hope that explains a little bit. And we really want to explain this business of biosemiotics. I was talking about the Royal Society. They have an entire issue back in 2016 with about, I think, 15 papers, and we're going to be going through all those. Not one of those 15 papers fined for intelligent design or creationism, even though Maddox constantly refers to it. So we're going to go through that and show you what they really mean by information and biosemiotics. And let's see, later today, I don't know if we're doing anything online. Tomorrow we should be doing the paper. So, okay, I have rambled. I hope this wasn't too bad or too painful. I hope somebody actually watches it. Oh, and do subscribe, because I am 25,426 days old, and I don't have too many days left. You're going to feel bad if you don't subscribe to my channel. Okay? Goodbye, boys and girls.